Aslında rakamlarla gitmek lazım. Yani rakamları gerçeklerle birleştirmek lazım. Rakamları hikayelerle örtüştürmek lazım. Avrupa Direktörü STR'nin EMANUEL gelecek biraz sonra. Ve özellikle küresel stratejiyi belirlerken rakamların diliyle nasıl bir strateji belirlenmeli? Dünyadan Türk turizminin alacağı pay nasıl olmalı, nasıl şekillenmeli? Hangi hikayeyi anlatmalıyız? Başta da söylediğimiz gibi ne kadar çok turistin geleceği önemli değil, ne kadar nitelikli bir turizm yaratacağımız önemli. Yani bu dönüşümü yaparken, turizme yeni bir anlayış getirirken, başka bir perspektifle yeniden dönüştürürken sektörü, bütün paydaşlarla birlikte ortaya yeni bir strateji, yeni bir zeka, yeni bir matematik koyarken aslında rakamların diliyle nasıl bir gelecek planlarız, şekillendiririz, o konuda bizi aydınlatacak. Yani stratejik bakış, veri, küresel gelişmeler gerçekten önemli. Çünkü küresel gelişmeler dediğimiz zaman dünyanın giderek yerelleşmeye doğru gittiği bir ortamda yerel değerlerini ön plana çıkararak Türkiye'nin küresel bir turizm markası olarak kendisini kabul ettirmesi bence en önemli anahtar kelime önümüzdeki dönem için. Destinasyonların performansları çok önemli. Türkiye'de 650'nin üzerinde 5 yıldızlı otel var ve 650 5 yıldızlı otelin yarısı Antalya'da. Yaratabildiğimiz en iyi markalardan bir tanesi elbette ki İstanbul, ama Türkiye'nin de kendisinin bir marka olarak dünyada turizm destinasyonları arasında hak ettiği yeri. Gerçi 6. büyük ülkeyiz ama gelirlerimiz bu yerin çok çok daha gerisinde. Stratejik olarak nasıl büyürüz, nasıl gelişiriz? Rakamların dili bize ne söyler? EMANUEL, STR Avrupa Direktörü.
Günaydın. And now I switch to English, unfortunately. It's a great pleasure to be here. It's been a few years since I was last in Istanbul, and thank you very much for the invitation to address you all today. And I'm going to talk to you about data. And STR are the market leaders in hotel performance data. So we've been now collecting data for more than 30 years, since 1985. We work with more than 67,000 hotels globally, more than 9 million rooms reported, and we report data across more than 180 countries, of course, including here in Turkey. So what do? Well, the core of what we do is we benchmark your world. So we provide benchmarking data. So if you are an operator, if you are an owner, if you're an asset manager, an advisor, and you want to understand how your hotel is performing against your competitors or against the market, we can help you do so. We also provide a range of other reports to the global hospitality industry to aid transparency, particularly for the investment community, and most of these I will touch upon during my presentation. So this will be the agenda. First of all, I'll talk about the changing hotel landscape around the world. And then we'll drill down and look at performance on a global scale and also here in Europe. We do place Turkey into Europe geographically as per the UNWTO. And then finally, we'll have a deep dive and look at what's happening according to our data here in Turkey. So let's start with the changing hotel landscape. And I want to begin by going back 10 years. And if we go back 10 years and look at the supply makeup, independent hotels versus branded hotels. And with the exception of North America, you can see every region of the world was independent dominated. There were more independent hotels than there were branded ones. If we now fast forward to today, you can see that the share of branded hotels has increased across the world. And in both now Asia Pacific and North America, branded hotels are in the majority. So we are becoming an increasingly brand-dominated hotel industry. But who are those brands? Well, again, let's go back 10 years initially. it was mainly big US groups that made up the largest players. And you can see there, outside North America, actually their percentage of their properties was fairly low in most cases. But again, if we fast forward to today, you can see all of those groups have grown. And in many cases, they're international. Their non-North American presence has also grown. But the leaderboard has also changed. We now have Xinjiang, Louvre, and Radisson Hotel Group in second position. As you can see, vast majority in China, the Chinese expanding their reach. We have Huaishu as well, a huge budget operator in China, more than 5,000 hotels. And of course, we're all enjoying the hospitality of the Raffles today, which is part of the Accor family, and we all know they've been growing vastly over the last few years, and again, very much non-North American dominated. But there is a disruptor. There is a disruptor in the fray, and that is Oyo. Oyo now have more than 35,000 hotels, predominantly across India and China, taking mid-scale and economy hotels, rebranding them, taking control of their inventory and the distribution. The growth has been enormous. It will be fascinating to see how that continues to play out. But of course, it's not just the branded environment that's changing technology. We all know technology is changing the landscape as well. OTAs, they're a crucial part, of course, now of the distribution landscape. But hotels now are not just competing with one another. If you go on an OTA, you can book apartments, you can book bed and breakfast, you can book guest houses. The OTAs have evened the playing fields for different types of paid accommodation. And STR's Tourism Consumer Insights team did a survey just over a year ago, and it showed that less than 40% of travelers had actually used Airbnb. You were more likely to have used Airbnb if you were young, and you were more likely to have used Airbnb if you were from North America. So just looking at those three pieces of data, you can see still the enormous potential of the sharing economy and of Airbnb to continue to grow their footprint in the paid accommodation arena. So maybe this is what our leaderboard should look like, with Airbnb way out ahead. And even here in Istanbul, this was taken from Booking.com last week, the number of listings. You can see here in this city, hotels still do dominate, but the number of apartments for rent, the number of B&Bs, hostels, and so on and so forth are significant and are growing all the time. It's touching every corner of the world. So the trend for brands now appears to be to blend. But the big hotel groups are really only dipping their toes in the water thus far. Marriott, Accor, Hilton, Oyo, all looking at that full paid accommodation area. And that, I'm sure, is a trend that is only going to grow. But despite the sharing economy, despite the European financial crisis, and despite multiple terrorist attacks across many countries in Europe, this chart shows that hotel occupancies are a full 10% higher than they were at the prior peak before the global financial crisis. So the fundamentals for the hospitality industry in Europe remain very, very solid. And if we go down one level deeper and look over that time period at the key cities and how their RevPAR, their revenue per available room, has grown in local currency in that time period, you'll see the vast majority of cities have seen significant growth over that time period, and I'm sure most of you will have a smile on your face to see who takes the gold medal position. So talking initially about performance, let's now change tact and look at performance on a global and a European basis. So this data is hot off the press. We haven't really presented this on many occasions. This is full year 2019 data, and this is supply, so the number of rooms available, and demand, the number of rooms sold,
İlk siz göreceksiniz
percentage
bu
change for the
rakamları.
global regions. Now, if we look first of all at
Yüzdesel
supply,
olarak
of course, the number of
değişiklikleri
hotels has
gösteriyorum.
increased. Supply has increased across the board.
Tedarik
The biggest
tüm
growth
dünyada
coming in the
artıyor.
Middle East and
Özellikle
Asia,
Orta Doğu ve
those
Asya'da
developing
otel
growing
tedariği
markets,
artıyor.
unsurprising
Pazarlar
to see, of
genişliyor.
course.
Bu tabii ki
And
şaşırtıcı
demand,
bir
with the
veri değil.
exception of Central
Ancak
America, also
Orta
up
Amerika
across the board, again
istisnası
being led by
dışında
the Middle
bütün diğer
East.
bölgelerde de
But
arz
it's
da
when you look
artıyor.
at the
Özellikle
supply and
Orta
demand
Doğu'da.
equilibrium
Ancak
that things get a little
arz-talep
bit more
dengesine
interesting,
baktığımızda
because you can
işler
see
biraz daha
across
ilginç
North
hale geliyor.
America,
Çünkü
Central America,
Kuzey
the Caribbean,
Amerika,
as well as the Asia
Orta
Pacific
Amerika,
region now,
Karayip bölgesi, Asya
supply is
ve
outpacing
Asya
demand.
Pasifik'te
When supply outpaces demand, occupancies fall, of course. So how does that then equate to our global
tedarik
RevPAR map?
arzdan daha hızlı ilerliyor.
Well, around the
Dolayısıyla
world,
herkes için o da
2019
var.
was a bit of a mixed picture.
2019'da aslında
Across the
dünya
Middle East,
genelinde
across
farklı
the Asia
durumlar
Pacific
yaşandı.
region, RevPAR
Orta
fell,
Doğu ve
and that predominantly was due to the new supply
Asya
coming into
Pasifik'te
the market.
yeni
Whereas we've got some good news stories as well down in still recovering from the challenges around safety, of course, over recent years. North America, though, as we saw, supply impacted, difficult to push rates. So actually Europe, at 2.2%, is doing a pretty good job. But supply is what we're going to have to look at across this continent in the coming years ahead. European hotel performance has been able to grow, and one of the reasons it's been able to grow is that the supply environment has been fairly benign. As you can see, sub 1% for most years. However, this year we're forecasting north of 2%. That will be the highest increase in supply of any year in STR's database. So supply is increasingly becoming a challenge for many markets. And you can see that when we look at how occupancy and rates have changed across Europe. Those blue bars representing occupancy have tailed off as that supply has got more, and as a result, the vast majority of growth is coming from rate. But the good news, despite that supply increase, in Europe we have now seen
Avrupa'da
10
arz
consecutive
artışına
years of
rağmen
RevPAR growth across the
son
continent.
10
And that's
yıldır
cumulative, of course.
sürekli
So it's
artış
growth upon
görüyoruz.
growth upon growth.
Yani sürekli
So as I
sektörümüz
mentioned
yılı
earlier,
artışla
the
kapatıyor.
fundamentals for the European hotel industry remain very, very solid.
Dolayısıyla Avrupa'da
But if we look at some of the key cities across the region, this is the percentage that supply grew last year, and you'll see where the bubbles expand, actually where it's far above the average. And you can go from west to east, from Dublin to Edinburgh, to Amsterdam, to Copenhagen, to Warsaw, to Tbilisi. All of these markets are being affected by new supply coming in. And there is a clear correlation between the new supply and the RevPAR. Many of these markets have seen RevPAR declines in
arasında büyük bir
2019
ilişki
as a
var.
result of that new
Bütün bu
supply coming
yeni
in.
arz nedeniyle
But I don't want to just be
2019'da bu
negative
şehirlerin
when we look at
oda
Europe.
başı
There are
elde ettiği gelir biraz
plenty
düştü.
of good news
Ancak
stories when we look at
sadece
Europe as
kötü
well.
haberlere odaklanmayalım.
My
Avrupa
hometown of
dediğimizde
London,
aslında
despite all
yüz
the
güldürücü
madness of Brexit,
haberler de var.
still growing.
Brexit çılgınlığına
Demand
rağmen
is solid.
Londra'da
Brussels also very
hala
solid,
sağlam bir talep var.
continuing its
Brüksel'de de talep
recovery
var.
from the challenges post those terror
Özellikle
attacks.
terör
And events
saldırılarından
as well, a
sonraki
key
kriz atlatılmaya
driver
başlandı. Ve
across many markets. You can
performansın
see that
temel iticisi
in Vienna, in
Madrid'de, Viyana'da,
Bucharest, the
Bükreş'te,
Romanians holding the EU.
ve yılın ilk yarısında
drive business.
Romanya
And
bildiğiniz
then there
gibi
are just
Avrupa
two other
Birliği
cities that I
başkanlığını
think it's
yürütüyor.
worth flagging.
Onlar
Moscow
biraz
looks
piyasayı
bad.
canlandırdı.
But the reason Moscow looks bad is
Moskova'da
there's a
durum
huge
biraz
World
kötü
Cup
görünüyor.
hangover.
Çünkü
So when you host a mega
Moskova'da
event, obviously
Dünya Kupası'ndan sonraki bir rehavet var. Her zaman böyle büyük bir şampiyona düzenlense oteller biraz düşüşe geçer. İstanbul'da harika bir performans görüyoruz. Tabii ki İstanbul'da Türk lirası bazında oda başı elde edilen gelir yansıtıldı burada. O yüzden çok daha farklı bir rakam görebiliyorsunuz ama İstanbul'da da durum iyi. Şimdi de isterseniz Akdeniz bölgesine odaklanalım. Coğrafyamızı biraz daha genişletelim. Ve burada da çok net bir şablon görüyoruz. Akdeniz genelinde son 2-3 yılda Türkiye'yi de etkileyen çok büyük bir değişim yaşandı. Verilere baktığımızda Kuzey Afrika'ya gidenler rotayı bu sefer
future. So on that piece of good news, let's look now at Turkey in more detail. Now, just to caveat these figures, we're currently collecting data from 363 hotels across Turkey, about 62,000 rooms in our sample. So, yes, we've got a lot of work to do, but it is still indicative of what is happening across the market. I will add in as well, we're not really tracking the economy hotels, it's mid-scale and above for the most part, and it is predominantly branded, albeit both domestic and international brands. So just to set the scene. But if we look at Turkey and we look at the supply, demand, and RevPAR percentage change for the country as a whole, there's obviously a very clear story here. You see 2016. But what we need to focus on is the positive and the rebound. Because if you look at that demand growth, for the last 3 years, it's been solid. And that demand growth is allowing hoteliers here to push rates, and as a result, RevPAR is growing. And we've seen 3 years now, 3 consecutive years of double-digit RevPAR growth across the country as a whole. That is a very, very impressive statistic to be able to bring you. So what does that mean for our data? So this is the data, obviously, that the international investment community are looking at. 67.5% occupancy, very, very respectable when you compare to other countries on a country level, so up 2.5%. Rates at 77 euros, up a full 10%, and then you can see RevPAR up 13% at 52 euros. That again is a country-wide number. But when we drill down and look at the cities that we track, there's a bit more of a disparity. This is occupancy for last year. And you can see occupancy growth is being driven by Istanbul and by Izmir. But there are, in some of those smaller, more provincial, predominantly domestic destinations, some occupancy declines from our data year on year. And I think that is potentially to do with the wider macroeconomic situation, which of course many of you in the audience are better qualified to talk about than I. But if we look at rates, it's a positive picture across the board. So average rates up significantly, and you can see that here in Istanbul, it's very, very healthy, but also in, and you're all going to have to forgive my appalling pronunciation, but Eskişehir, Kayseri, Adana, and Gaziantep, double-digit growth in terms of average rates in each of those cities. That's great. So put it all together and look at RevPAR, with the exception, and again forgive the pronunciation, of Eskişehir, positive RevPAR for last year. I just want to point out as well the Turkish Riviera. So this is the resorts, 15% growth. It really does cement what I was mentioning previously about the demand shifting back now to Turkey from the European Mediterranean. The market is booming, it's moving forward very solidly, it's a good news story. If we look at what does that mean for actuals? What does that mean for actual performance? That's the growth, but actual occupancy levels are highest in Izmir at 77%. Fantastic levels of occupancy. Obviously a very modern city, a big port, lots of development going on there, all influencing that number. Then you see Istanbul at 74%, Gaziantep at 73%. When you compare again internationally, these are very, very solid levels of performance. Rate-wise, average rates, unsurprising to see, of course, the Riviera and here in Istanbul at the top end with 90 euros. And there is quite a discrepancy between these markets and some of those smaller regional ones as well in terms of the rate premiums that they are able to attain. But I thought it would be rude of me to come to Istanbul and not talk about the city in a little bit more detail. So we've seen these numbers already. Very, very positive performance for Istanbul in 2019. And of course, we saw earlier the growth over a longer time period as well. But when we look at that, again, there's a clear story, a clear picture. Of course, we have 2016. But what we need to focus upon is the occupancy last year. Back up above the prior levels that we saw, and also, of course, demand rocketing. So there's no reason to believe that these numbers are not going to continue to get even better. Now, rates are not at the same level. It was spoken about previously about the currency situation, and that is a factor, certainly. If we look at the prior peak back in 2012, we look at RevPAR here in Istanbul, whilst it's gone up in local currency, in liras, from a euro perspective, it's now more inexpensive to visit Istanbul than it was. So not bad news for somebody like me who earns their money in pounds. But of course, Istanbul is a huge city, and we like to carve it up. Every year as our sample grows, we look at carving up more and more submarkets to give you more transparency on what's happening in different areas of the city. And the good news is across all areas, these bubbles, they represent the size of the RevPAR growth. So the biggest growth last year was actually in the east and on the Asian side. Biggest increases in RevPAR taking part in that growing part of the city. Average rates were up everywhere, but I think we see a slight decline in occupancy around Ataturk Airport. Not surprising, of course, with the new airport coming in, but I think actually that number is phenomenally impressive when you consider the demand dynamic change away from Ataturk Airport. The hotels in that market are pretty much still sustaining the occupancy levels that they had previously, and their growing rate. Once again, another good news story for this city, and with the new airport and new hotel development coming there as well, of course, we'll be able to talk more about that in due course. Again, in terms of actual performance, well, the CBD, 79% occupancy, very, very strong, compared to 70% at Ataturk Airport. And then rates, understandably, of course, strongest in the CBD and then around the Old Town and Taksim as well. But let me now just finish by looking into the future and looking at our pipeline, so hotels that are in development. Now, this is branded hotels, I will say that up front. But this shows you the existing supply that we have in our database with the green bars, and then you've got the yellow tails representing the pipeline. So really the pipeline is centered here. It's centered here in Istanbul. We're tracking more than 5,000 keys in the pipeline. Compare that to Ankara, where we're tracking just over 600, and Bursa, where we're tracking just over 500. So the development is very much here. But then in some of those smaller markets that you can see towards the top of the chart, the supply percentage is going to increase significantly as they're relatively small markets with that investment and those developments coming online. Our AMPM platform, which shows you existing and future supply, these yellow dots represent where the new supply is coming in. And then in the next 2 years, really, we can see the bulk of it obviously coming in again here in Istanbul. And when you look at who's developing here, who has projects in the pipeline, it really is, again, a who's who of the international hotel industry. There's Marriott, there's Hilton, IHG, Accor, Wyndham, Radisson, all of these global brands increasing their footprint here in Istanbul. We all know how important a city it is for many of these global operators. But then we also see Middle Eastern operators, so Jumeirah, the Address Hotel Group with pipeline here, as well as Wanda, the Chinese group, opening a hotel in Istanbul. And that, for me, once again, really does represent just how attractive this city is for investors across the globe. Hotel companies want to increase their presence, increase their flags in this fascinating city. So in summary, brands are on the rise. There's no escaping that fact. And technology is changing things, as we've mentioned. And alternative accommodations, the total paid accommodation picture is here. It's here to stay. We need to be aware, we need to adapt. From a performance perspective, Europe has seen 10 years of growth. Great news story, of course, but supply is increasingly a challenge. But Turkey's performance is fantastic at the moment. It really is rocketing ahead. The Riviera is doing great, but Istanbul is really driving things forward as well. And I really do believe that the future looks bright. We've heard from speakers today already about the confidence, about the initiatives that are happening, the presence of you all here today, the international brand attractiveness of the city. the future is bright for this fascinating, fantastic, and very, very friendly city and country. And all that leaves me to say is teşekkürler. Thank you.
Mr. Emmanuel, speaking of changes, a lot has changed since Göbekli Turkey is one of the most important touristic destinations. We know that, but I think Göbekli has changed everything we know dramatically. I would like to present you this book so that you can remember us in the future for the sake of history. Thank you so much for this contribution.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bir kısa kahve molası verelim. Ondan sonra hepinizi buraya tekrar bekliyoruz. Çok çok teşekkürler.